With the introduction of over 10 Xbox new studios over the course of the last 2 years, a lot of people are wondering what these studios are making. But some of the biggest comments I'm hearing from people are the fact that they believe that they want to see them make games like Sony are making, third-person, over-the-shoulder, action-adventure games, and I want to talk about that. What's going on, guys? It's your boy Forte, and I definitely want to say shout out to all of you guys. You guys have been huge supporters of the channel over the last few weeks. It is greatly appreciated. Make sure you hit that like button and that subscribe button, share it with your friends on social media. That also helps out the channel a lot. So I was having some conversation with a couple of friends online, and it was really just a conversation mostly just diving into the whole narrative about how Sony builds their first party games, you know, that third person over the shoulder action adventure game, which a lot of people just seem to adore right now. And it's probably not just right now, it's been like this for years and years, ever since the original Uncharted games came out, and Uncharted 2 just took it to a whole nother level. That's kind of been like the launching point for a lot of these third person over the shoulder games. We got those remakes like Tomb Raider. They completely took that idea and just ramped it up a little bit even more. I will say and be honest that this is probably one of the things that is lacking from the first party perspective on the Microsoft side. Sure, they have games like Gears of War, and Gears of War is that type of game, but I think people are looking more for that realistic tone, that atmospheric game that you only get from Sony published platforms. Maybe that's not a fair comparison, but that's what this person was really truly asking for, and I kind of agree with him. I think Microsoft has done a lot of things during this generation to make themselves stand out as much as they can, especially with stuff like Game Pass and Play Anywhere, being a very pro-consumer type company when it comes to just giving stuff away at a certain point. Like Xbox Live Game Pass has literally been $1 for, it seems like, forever at this point, and it just seems at a certain point that they're just not caring about Xbox Live anymore because they just tied it into PC Game Pass for $5 more. And I'm gonna make a video about that too, because I think some really interesting things are going to happen with Xbox Live. But comment down below, guys, how would you feel if Xbox Live was free? And do you think that would be a detriment to Xbox, or do you think it would be a net positive to Xbox? Let's talk about that in the comment section. But when it comes to these action adventure games, those are more of the post-pounding type games that it's more of the get in and get out. It's like a one playthrough experience that you enjoy. Maybe you do it twice just because it's a higher difficulty, but the story is what really drags you in, and it's like one of those conversation starters. That's the one thing I really loved about games like BioShock Infinite. It had me thinking and talking and having conversations with people, even though that was more of a first person game. I think we need to marry that type of storytelling with the types of games that Microsoft likes to make. Now, I don't believe this was a problem during the 360 generation because Halo was such a beast back then. You know, it was one of those phenomenons that just everybody knew about. It was shown everywhere. It was pretty much like how Spider-Man was in 2019 for Sony. It was pretty much just visible no matter where you looked at. And Halo has kind of taken a little bit of a nosedive over the course of this generation in general, but it was such a huge thing. Microsoft just literally put all their eggs in that basket and they dominated for a really good while with just that title. And then Gears came and basically just solidified the generation for them. There was no other game like that on the market. It was great storytelling from beginning to end. I felt like Gears of War 3 was one of the best games that came out last generation, and I'll stand by that. But we cannot say that games like Uncharted and Last of Us have not hit a certain chord for gamers that even Microsoft games haven't even come close to yet. Now, that might be blasphemous to some people because it's all subjective at a certain point. Games that you might like may not be liked by another person, but it just seems like Sony's narrative around the games that they build is always of an upper class than anything else out there. We all know Mario and Zelda and stuff's gonna sell, but it's not mostly due to just story. It's mostly due because the IPs are so huge and there's always people looking to get into those games because you have the nostalgia nostalgic factor of us being older gamers. We have kids that we know those games are safe for them to play. That is kind of like the recipe for having evergreen content, because that is literally what Mario and Zelda and all those type of games are. They're all evergreen. They're not just games that are evergreen, the characters are evergreen. Microsoft has evergreen content, but they haven't built upon that over the course of this generation. Sony has taken IPs and actually made new IPs from existing studios that had nothing to do with the IPs or the types of IPs they were making before. See Guerrilla Games, they made Killzone. That was the type of games they were made for. They made all the way up to Killzone 3, and then this hard shift after Killzone Shadowfall, which was Killzone 4, to Horizon Zero Dawn. Brand new IP this generation. What was it? Third person, over the shoulder, action adventure game. Take it or live it with the story, but the fact that they made it is something that people appreciated because they knew Sony was going to be innovating on that property. And now look, we're getting a second part of it, Horizon Zero Dawn 2. And I think that's a great thing. I think this is the type of thing that people want Microsoft Game Studios to focus on, and only time will tell on that. But I do believe we do have to have those type of narrative games in the Microsoft wheelhouse, because if we don't, Microsoft really isn't broadening the appeal to have people that have a PlayStation to really choose Xbox over PlayStation. The reason people picked Xbox last generation is because multiplayer was so supremely better on Xbox. It was. Even though you paid for it, it was, in my opinion, better. It's not that same narrative this generation. All of the top games and shooters that were really holding up the Xbox, like third-party style, are all PlayStation, not exclusives, but marketing deals. And I think that's another place where Microsoft kind of dropped the ball at, but that's another rant for another day. But they just need to take some of the inspirations that Sony put out there with their game designs and bring that over to the Microsoft ecosystem. And if they do that, then you will have a great chance at pulling some of those PlayStation gamers over, adopting them into your system. I don't think you'll ever fully transform PlayStation gamers into Xbox gamers, because most PlayStation gamers have been PlayStation gamers their whole life. You just have to give them an option and want them to have to pick up your system. If they can get only those games on your Xbox or even on Xbox Game Pass, because that Microsoft is very staunch in their approach and that they don't care where you play your games at. Just get them in the ecosystem, and that's all that should matter. But guys, that's all I got for you. I just wanted to touch bases with you guys about what I was thinking around how third-person games were really driving a narrative in the community and just online in general. I think God of War set a standard. I think Last of Us, even with the story not being up to par to what people like, it still sold 4 million copies in 3 days, which on 100 million sold isn't the greatest thing, but it's still 4 million copies sold, and that speaks volumes. So what do you guys think? What kind of games do you think you want to see Microsoft make with their studios? Who do you think you want to see make a third-person over-the-shoulder action game for the Xbox Series X? Let's have that conversation down in the comment section. And guys, like I said, you guys are amazing, and I really appreciate it, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Peace.